everybody, and welcome back to Screen Stars, and welcome to another classic film review. Today's classic film review is for the 1988 action film Red Heat, a film that is co-written and directed by Walter Hill, and it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as Ivan Danko, Jim Belushi as Art Ritzik, Peter Boyle, Ed O'Ross, Lawrence Fishburne, Gina Gershon, and Richard Bright. Now, this is a buddy cop film. They were wildly popular at the time thanks to Lethal Weapon, and it's about Ivan Danko, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, is a Russian police officer who has to come to America to escort a Russian prisoner back home. However, while in his custody, this Russian prisoner escapes, and it's up to Ivan Danko and Jim Belushi's character Art Ritzik to team up and try and take down this Russian gangster. Right, so that's basically the story here. Now, this film was something a little bit different for Arnold at the time. We were used to seeing him in these huge action movies, full of wisecracks, tongue-in-cheek type movies, and this was actually quite a serious role for Arnold at the time. He spent 3 months learning Russian to play the role. They shot some scenes in Russia as well. I think it was the first film at the time ever to do that, certainly the first American film. I may be wrong on that. And he doesn't really have any wisecracks in this film. It's a very serious part for him. I mean, there are some funny moments, some fun moments between him and Jim Belushi. They have great chemistry together in this movie, but the majority of the comedy here comes from Jim Belushi, which is probably why they cast him. He's the one with all the wisecracks and the funny lines here. Ivan Danko is, like I said, a very, very serious character, and he does build this relationship and this chemistry with Jim Belushi throughout the film, but he still kind of always remains professional and all this kind of stuff. It was a very interesting role for Arnold to take at the time, and it paid off. I mean, this movie was a success. It wasn't right up there as one of his biggest successes. I mean, it wasn't even his biggest success of that year. In 1988, Twins came out as well, I believe, which was a smash hit, but it certainly did well enough. I think Walter Hill has had a great track record of directing brilliant action films, certainly in the 80s and beyond, and he's got a real, when you're watching a Walter Hill film, generally speaking, they sound the same in regards to the soundtrack, the music. They've all got that, and if you watch 48 Hours, watch this and watch some of his other movies, they've got a very, very similar sound to them. They've got a very similar look to them. They feel gritty and realistic, and they've got that real Walter Hill look about them. And his action is very visceral. It's very distinctive. Walter Hill's action. It's not glossed over. It's not made to look beautiful for the big screen. It is what it is. His action, and it's very. I was about to say grounded. I'm not sure that's the right word. It's quite hard to describe Walter Hill's action movies, but he does them in such a way that you knew, if you didn't know who had directed this film, you'd watch it, and if you'd be like, yeah, that's a Walter Hill film. Very, very good director, and I don't think he gets enough credit and respect that he deserves. Walter Hill has made some absolute classics over the years, and this is one of them. I think it's one of his stronger films. I remember when this came out, because I was such a big fan of Arnie in the 80s. I remember when this first came out, and the first time I saw it, I remember being a little bit disappointed. And it's probably for the reasons that I mentioned. Arnold looked a little bit smaller in this film. I think he was asked to lose weight by Walter Hill to make it a little bit more realistic, so I was disappointed by that. I remember that scene at the beginning when he's in that Russian sauna and you see him for the first time, and he looked much slimmer than I used to seeing him, and I'm like, oh gosh, he's lost weight, he doesn't look as big. It's a strange reason not to enjoy a film as much, but I was so into training and Arnold at that time, it didn't sit well with me when it had lost weight. and it just didn't. His character didn't click with me when I was young because I was so used to seeing this wisecracking, larger than life superhero characters he were playing, and he doesn't really do that here. He's vulnerable in this film, and Walter Hill makes that very, very clear when he is initially hit over the head and knocked unconscious and injured quite badly when Victor Rostov escapes in the US and he ends up in hospital. You think, oh, he's vulnerable in this film. So it's a different Arnold, and it's a film. This is a film that I've learned to really enjoy and appreciate as the years have gone on, and I've matured and I've recognised that it's actually a different kind of Arnold film than the ones we were used to in the 80s, really. And it is definitely one that I have certainly appreciated more as the years have gone on. It's got a great cast as well. We've got Peter Boyle, Lawrence Fishburne, Gina Gershon as well. You get a lot of recognisable faces in this film, and some of the action set pieces are really nicely put together. There's a nice bus sequence at the end, a bus chase. There's something a little bit different. There's some great shootouts in the film. There's one in a hotel that I always enjoyed. And seeing Arnold with a Magnum 44 is something special as well, even though they kind of make a joke of it when Jim Belushi gives him the Magnum 44 and he talks about Dirty Harry, and he looks at him, Ivan Danko, and says, "Who is Dirty Harry?" It's a funny line, it's a funny moment, although I'm fairly sure he would have known who Dirty Harry was. Even I don't think even Russia was that much in the dark in them days. So, right, to cut a long story short, I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. It is a very, very good film. It's a good Arnold film. It's a good action film. It's a good buddy cop film. It ticks a lot of boxes, this film. Just don't go in there to see this over-the-top Arnold Schwarzenegger superhero figure that's played in many of his movies. But it is definitely a really, really entertaining and fun 80s film. And one that I am happy to have in my collection. It's one that I do watch quite regular. So yeah, that's my classic film review for Red Heat. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you liked the video, click like, and I'll be back with more content very, very soon.